folks. Okay, good morning. So it's Tuesday already. So when you watch this, it'll be Tuesday anyway. And so for you yesterday, Monday, I was in L1 English. Most of us anyway, all hooked up yesterday. And just to say a very big well done to those L1 English children for all being there. I was really pleased that you were there. That was great. Some of you were more quiet than others, but we all had to learn how to use certain buttons and just see how things were going. So very, very well done for your patience. I know some of you must have been quite hungry because we went well into lunchtime. So well done, you guys, and we'll hook up again for L1 on Friday. Tomorrow, Wednesday, we'll all be together for a bit more maths and for Discovery of the World. So we won't do a video on Wednesday, one of these on Wednesday, because we'll be in a meeting. Okay, so this is for Tuesday, nothing on Wednesday, and then we'll do another video for Thursday. Okie dokie. So what have you got today? You've got Spellbound to do. We talked about that yesterday. There's nothing different. So Spellbound finishing off, and the second page of that. And then more work on fractions. Some people have already sent some of their fractions work back on the Teams already, and it's looking really good. So I'm hoping you're going to find today's work quite straightforward. So there's a PowerPoint for you to watch that's attached to your work, and it really just tells you what we've already talked about. Okay, it reminds you of the top number and the bottom number of the fraction being called the, see if you can remember, what's the top word, what's the top number called? Can't read it. What's it called? I think I can hear Adelina saying numerator. Well done. Okay, and I'm not going to move my head. What about the bottom number in the fraction? What's that called? Very long word. Denominator, nearly. Denominator. Okay, so that's really difficult to remember because they're such long words. Well done if you did. Okay, and we remember that the denominator is massively important to tell you how many parts there are in the whole thing. Okay, so if we were talking about this shape here, the denominator indicated here, what would it be? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 parts to that whole one. So on that one, 8 would be the denominator. And depending on what we were colouring in or how many parts we were taking away, whatever it might be, that would determine what our numerator would be. Okay, so there's bits on the PowerPoint reminding you about that. There's what you might have to do is just keep clicking it to make extra words and figures come in for it to work its way through for you. It depends how it comes up for you, but you might find you need to click on it a little bit. And at some point it'll say colour in. Well, obviously you can't colour in something on the screen, but you can maybe point out. It might ask you to say or write down what a particular fraction is, with them having provided you with a shape on the screen. So what you could do, if you wanted to, is write it all down on a piece of paper. You could even send that to me if you want to, okay? But watch it, and it should just reassure you and make things even clearer in your mind. And then the work that you need to do for Intermath is very, very similar. The main difference is that you haven't always got 1 as your numerator. We talked about this yesterday as well. You could have 3 quarters, okay, not just 1 quarter. You could have, what did we say? This was in eighths, okay? So you could, if you had 2 of those coloured in, that would be 2 eighths, for instance. We'll have a look at that in a minute and just and check we're okay with that. So on your first question, it's asking you to write the fraction underneath each shape. So remember, the denominator on the bottom is how many bits there are all together in the whole one. It doesn't matter whether they're blue or white. How many are there all together in the whole? Okay, and that will change from shape to shape. They're not all split into 4 parts or 3 parts. You have to count and check, count carefully. And the numerator on the top is how many of those parts are actually shaded in blue. So in that example, you can see 1 quarter is shaded in blue, 1 out of 4. What I sometimes do when I was learning fractions and when I'm teaching it is think that that little line between the numerator and the denominator, you could say out of. So 1 out of 4 parts. Yeah? down here. Maybe let me show you with my not brilliantly drawn circle. Let's say that's shaded, and that part's shaded, and that part's shaded. Okay, so how many parts are shaded? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, you can see if I write over here. 3 parts are shaded out of how many are there altogether? Whether they're shaded or not shaded. Altogether, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 parts. Yeah? So 3 out of 8 parts are shaded. 3/8 of the shape is shaded. That's how we say that, eighths. It's a bit like what position you might come in a race. It's called an ordinal number in that case. Okay, eighths. If they were all shaded, we know that there were 8 parts altogether, and 8 of those 8 parts are shaded. In other words, the whole thing is shaded. Yesterday we talked about if you have the numerator and the denominator being the same, 8 out of 8, it's the same as saying 1 whole 1. Okay, it's the same thing. It's a bit like when you do your spelling test, yeah? When we do our Spellbound spelling test, you have 16 questions, yeah? So you would get, you can just see down here, can't you? You would, how many parts are there in the whole test? There are 16 parts in the whole test. You can see that better if I do that. 16 parts in the whole test, yeah? If you get 16 right, 16 questions right out of 16, 16 spellings right out of 16, you've got 16 out of 16. That's how we write a test result like that, don't we? In other words, you got one whole test completely right. You got the whole thing, a whole test right. Okay? So that's another way of looking at it. If that helps you with that little line, maybe replace it with the words out of. Okay? Good. Remember, you can always pause these videos or play them back again if you need to hear something again. What else have you got to do? In this question down here, you've got to do the colouring in. So they tell you what the fraction is, and you've got to colour in the right amount of the whole one. So if we look at this last one here, it's saying 2 out of the 10 parts. 2/10 is how we say that fraction. 2/10. So it should be that there are 10 parts altogether in that whole one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes. You've only got to colour 2 of them. Okay, whatever colour you want, doesn't matter. Different colours if you want. But colour in 2/10 of the whole shape. So in other words, 2 of those parts, they might be next to each other, they might be in different places, but only 2 of them. So you've coloured in 2/10. Okay, the words that we use for the denominators, like tenths, eighths, fifths, quarters, halves, we don't say tooths, do we? Even though there might be 2 parts. Sometimes they're difficult to remember and difficult to learn, so maybe we'll speak a little bit about those tomorrow when we have our meeting. Okay, same with 3. If it's in 3 parts, like this one here, okay, we can recognise it written down. We know, so for instance, on this question, we've got to choose which of these fractions are correct to show what's been coloured on that whole one. So how many parts are there all together? There are 3 parts altogether in that whole one. So it can't be that because the denominator's wrong. Yeah, it can't be that one with 4 on the bottom because the denominator's wrong. It's got to have a denominator of 3. Okay, and then we see how many parts are coloured in. Just 1 out of the 3 parts. There we go, 1 out of 3. But we say that, we don't say 1/3, even though that would be quite logical. We say 1/3. Okay, so we'll need to learn some of the denominator words as we go along as well. But you can see them quite easily. Okay, this isn't about speaking, so we're good. So here, as we say, you've got to put a circle around the correct fraction to match the coloured shape. And the last question is a bit harder because you have to, it says draw and shade the fraction. So here you've got a circle. It says you need to shade in 3/4 of it. So for a start, you've got to divide it up into 4 equal parts. That's tricky, to try and make them as best you can, each part the same size, not a massive bit and 3 teeny weeny bits. Okay, so as best as you can, draw it so that your parts are equal. I found that quite difficult when I was drawing my 8s this morning, to actually get those 8s as close as I can to be the same size. Actually, I can see that I've not done a brilliant job here. I think that 8th is actually looking a bit bigger than that one. But I've done my best, and I expect you will do your best as well. And then you shade in the right amount for the numerator each time. Okay, so that is your into math. If you do an L1 which is not English, you could actually stop the video here, because I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes now talking about the L1 English task. So if the others who do English with Miss Connolly decide to leave at this point, no problem. And we shall see you in a meeting tomorrow. Bye-bye. Okay, the rest of you who do L1 English, just hang on a second, because your task for today carries on from where we got up to at our meeting yesterday. And I don't know how easy it was for you to concentrate during the meeting, but we read through the part which comes up as chapter 5 in the book, but it was a bit different in the play version. But we were reading the part where Leela is in the grotto. She meets the fire fiend. Chulak and Hamlet arrive in the nick of time with the special magic water that they've got from the Golden Goddess to save her from the flames in the grotto with the fire fiend. So she escapes out of the grotto. Chulak and Hamlet are obviously with her now, but we're just taking a massive step into the different part of the story, because she has achieved her quest in that she's got the fire fiend. Whether or not she's got really what she needs, we don't know yet. We'll come back to that a bit later in the story. But now that she's together with Chulak and Hamlet, they have told her, they've just found out that Razvani, not Razvani, what am I talking about? Lal Chand, I beg your pardon, Lal Chand, Leela's dad, Leela's father, has been captured by the king back in the village where they all come from, the kingdom where they come from, because he was spotted helping the royal elephant to escape with Chulak, if you remember. And the king doesn't like that, so the king has captured, or his guards have captured Lal Chand. He's being held by the king, and Leela, Chulak and Hamlet go back to their home kingdom, and the king is not happy with them at all, particularly with Chulak, because he made Hamlet escape, move to another place. He's not happy with Lal Chand, and he has decided that he is going to only release Lal Chand, the father, only let him go if Leela can prove she is a magnificent firework maker by making a fantastic firework. And they're going to test that fantastic firework at the New Year Festival of the Kingdom, where there is going to be a big firework competition. So towards the end of the story, we're going to hear all about that. You're going to be reading about it towards the end of the week. So the pages that you have to read today are attached in teams to the assignment. Okay, they're pages 94 to 97, I think. Okay, and that is all about when Lal Chand is allowed to go and be with Leela while she prepares this firework for the competition. So she's got to come up with a magnificent idea. And in the book, her father is alongside with her to help her. So read that, and it's just about them getting together and talking about the competition. Now, your job is to imagine that you're Leela, and you have got to come up with a magnificent firework. Okay, so you're going to come up almost with a potion with the ingredients for the firework, all the things you need to put in it. And then tomorrow you're going to write the method how to make that firework. Okay, so obviously this doesn't need to be a sign. Please don't be scientifically correct. Here you can use your imagination. So you need to try and imagine what kind of firework could win this competition for Leela, how that firework is going to look, what colours you want to make it, the size you want it to be, the noises you want it to create, where is it going to go in the sky, what shapes it might make in the sky, is it going to smell of anything? Is it going to have a feel to it? And depending on how you want, how is it going to explode? Is it just going to explode in the sky once, or is it going to explode multiple times? I don't know. So the ingredients that you put into your firework are hopefully going to enable that firework to act and look and smell and be as you intend it to be, as Leela. So you can really use your imaginations. Okay, try and have at least 5 ingredients. Okay, and I wouldn't have more than 15, 20 ingredients. Okay, but it's up to you. Yes, so you need to come up with your list of ingredients. Try and use some kind of spell check or a dictionary to get the spellings right for those. It's a bit like when we did the potion. When we were reading George's Marvellous Medicine, you had an exercise where you made up a potion for a spell, and you had to think, what do you want that spell to do? Somebody said they wanted the spell to turn someone into a dog. Someone said they wanted the spell to make them beautiful. So that affected what ingredients went into your potion. So again, you need to think about how you want that firework to be, to give you some ideas as to what could go into your mixture for this firework. Okay, so today you're going to make a list. So the way you write it down or type it up is going to look like a list. It's not going to go all across and in a great big block. It's going to be boom, 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 one thing after the other, like a shopping list. Okay, also see if you can come up with a name for the firework. And I guess that should be something to do with how that firework is going to present itself. Okay, then tomorrow, surprise, surprise or not, your job will be to write the method as to how to make that firework. Okay, now you were looking at recipes when we did the weight work before Easter. So method should be quite clear in your mind. You've looked at some of those. We've done it before when we made the spells as well. So you're going to have a step 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, it's going to be like a list of sentences. Okay, and each sentence is the part of the instruction in the right order. What do you do first? Step 1. What do you do second? That's your number 2. Third, and so forth. And remember, when you write that up as a method, it's not going to be polite, please may you, if you don't mind, it's a good idea. Get out your bossy finger with your bossy head and try to start each instruction for the parts of the method with a verb, with a doing word. Take, mix, pour, shake, cut, whatever it might be. Okay? So that each step of your method should start with a vowel. It might be that you've got a good reason for it not to. Did I just say a vowel? I did, didn't I? I heard myself. A verb, a doing word. It doesn't help, does it, when I say the words wrong? And that's only when I notice that I've said the word wrong. So start each step with a verb, a doing word. Okay, unless you've got a good reason for not to, which is possible. Okay, and you might even do a picture. I would love to see a picture as to what your Leela's idea firework might look like. Okay, so that takes you guys through Tuesday and Wednesday. Your version of Leela's competition firework. List of ingredients with the name of the firework, and then the next day, how do you make it? Steps. Okay, right. I think that's us for today. I shall see everybody tomorrow, I hope, either at 10 o'clock or at 11 o'clock for our Maths and Discovery of the World chat. You all know how to mute and unmute yourselves, so that should all be fine this time. And I shall see you then. Okay, bye.